To the victors go the spoils. That's what's coming up next on this episode of Locked On USC.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, fight on, everyone. This is your host, Mark Culkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you like to watch on YouTube or wherever you like to download your podcast, we are free. And thank you so much again for coming along, watching, enjoying the show, hopefully. If you haven't done it already, if you see that red subscribe button there on YouTube, hit it. It's really appreciated. And for those of you who already have, thank you so much. And you can always follow me at my Twitter. You see it there at Mark Culkin, MarkKulkin. All right, so this episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So last season wasn't a very memorable one for USC and her fans. Everybody else who played USC and their fans enjoyed it. They got to take out some of their aggressions, some of their animosity, some of their bitterness from past defeats, including UCLA. And as USC was trying to just get through the end of that season, UCLA came into the Coliseum and they dropped 62 points all over the Coliseum floor, lit up the scoreboard. And DTR, the Bruins quarterback, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, guy was actually signing up autographs on clothing during the game after he was scoring touchdowns. Like they say, to the victor go the spoils. And winner gets everything. And that includes the victory bell and bragging rights. And right now, UCLA has a whole bunch of that. They have all of that. And they are reminding USC and their fans who hear about it. The players have to the USC players had to be reminded of it at practice. At least that's how they let on. But as I was saying, the Bruins, their players, they're already bragging, and that started literally moments after they got their butts handed to them at home in an upset to the Arizona Wildcats. And that's going to be the same field, the Rose Bowl, Saturday night, that they plan to defend against USC, who, by the way, are opening as a 2.5-point favorite over the Crosstown UCLA Bruins on their home field, allegedly. As everyone knows, USC calls the Rose Bowl their home away from home. So, shortly after Arizona Wildcats quarterback Jaden DeLaura had shredded the Bruins defense this was Jaden's line as a quarterback, throwing the ball, 22 for 28, 315 yards, and 2 touchdowns through the air. After all that happened, UCLA safety Mose Osling had the audacity to say, when he was asked about replicating the 62-33 game from 2021, quote, "We know we're going to replicate it next week, so we're gonna have a little bit of a fire underneath our butts. Go out there and just put it on display," end quote. So I'm thinking to myself, and I would be responding, if I was a player or if I had any emotional investment in this game, and because I don't, but if I did, I would say, hey, Mo, of the UCLA Bruin Stooges, hey, Mo, it's not like Caleb Williams is some slouch at quarterback. Some might say he might even be the number 1 draft pick in the 2024 NFL draft. So, I would maybe hold back on that. We're going to replicate what we did last year type of stuff. Completely different situation, new players, different quarterback, different head coach. And maybe that's why DTR is not so much. He's not spitting expletives like he was after the game. If you were reading lips, but he's definitely talking already. He said that he wants to break 60 points against USC, and it would be even better than it was last season at the Coliseum, doing it at home at the Rose Bowl. So, following Tuesday's practice, we reminded Kalen Bullock, who's from Pasadena and who's played on the Rose Bowl turf before. We told him of those words following Tuesday's practice, and you could kind of sense Kalen got a little stiff in the neck. And because at first of all, he said, "Have you been, paying attention to any of the bulletin board material that the Bruin fans have been putting out there?" And he's like, "No, I haven't seen it." When we got specific and said, "Well, this is what DTR said," Cam's like, "Well, that ain't happening." I mean, he was a little offended. So I'll talk about that a little bit more in the next segment because I got a little bit of a USC practice report from Tuesday. So we're going to go over that. Lincoln Riley took a subtle but a complimentary shot at DTR when he said this. This was on Monday on the Trojans Live radio show. Lincoln Riley, he kind of joked about DTR being at UCLA forever. And Lincoln said that his former coaching staff actually had prepped and prepared for him back in 2018 when Kyler Murray was Oklahoma's quarterback. UCLA and Oklahoma played back in 2018. So maybe that's why DTR is popping off and acting a little cranky. He's old. He's got that "get off my lawn" stuff going on right now. Lincoln also said that that he's really excited for his first Crosstown Showdown due to what's at stake. Quote, "When both teams are good and there are a lot of opportunities ahead for both teams, it makes it way better." Excuse me, end quote. Well, this is where Coach and I kind of part ways. I talked about this on yesterday's episode. Look, this might be great for the fan base and for the players who are involved in the game. But in the big picture and, in the macro, I'm always of the opinion that a down Bruin is a better Bruin. And I discussed, like I said, I discussed the reasons why on the episode yesterday. You can go back and check it out, mostly because it affects recruiting. USC does just fine recruiting, but they don't need UCLA to kind of be right there with USC, giving players another place to play locally if they feel like maybe USC's roster is a little bit too deep. And maybe you don't want that type of player on your team. Nevertheless, let's remove any doubt. Let's take that doubt away from them and force them into USC, right? And again, just by hearing that these, Mo Osling and DTR and how they're, kind of feeling a little froggy, like they're ready to jump into this. That's reason enough for Bruin. Just hearing the Bruin players popping off and feeling good about themselves. I don't need to hear that, and I get it. It feels good after the win for USC. To kind of shove that stuff back down in their throats. But still, I'm just not a fan of it. I would actually prefer USC owning UCLA every year and them doing the talking because they can back it up. Again, I remember 8 in a row. I don't want UCLA even sniffing 8 in a row. And if they win again this year, they're kind of getting that sniff. Let's cut off that nose real fast. So, I had mentioned that I was at practice Tuesday, so I'll get you guys linked in on that here in a moment. But first, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. So you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs help you find the right people for your team faster and for free. So when you get over there, you're going to, post your job, and then you're also going to put up the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. They have simple tools like screening questions that make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Okay. So I was at practice on Tuesday. They let us inside the cone of silence for about 15, 20 minutes. And one of the first things that we see, and I've mentioned this before, so this might sound a little repetitive, but for those of you who have never had an opportunity to read any of my notes and observations practice report, you can go check that out over there on wearesc.com. Got a cool $10 sale, annual sale that will get you all the way through August 31st, 2023. So all the way through the end of fall camp next year. Go check it out. But, however, here are a few notes and observations from Tuesday's practice. You can go check out the rest, as I mentioned over there at wearesc.com. Jordan Addison, he wasn't 100% versus Colorado. Lincoln mentioned that. Jordan kind of confirmed that after practice. But he did, he still played around 20 to 25 snaps or so against Colorado. He was only targeted twice. However, Riley did say that he anticipates Jordan being 100% ready on Saturday when they take on UCLA. I saw Jordan. He looks like he's back to the old Jordan Addison. He might not be 100%, but he's going to be as close as can be this late into the season, which is actually very fortunate because he kind of confirmed what I said initially after the injury. And I know some of you took offense to it and went running back to the message boards, not necessarily wearesc.com, and we're complaining that I was saying that Jordan Addison is never going to play again, and kind of left out a certain word that put some context. It's very possible that Jordan wasn't going to play because the injury looked really bad. And Jordan today, after practice, said the same thing. Initially after that injury, it looked bad, but he gave a lot of credit to the trainers and to the USC doctors for getting him back as quickly as they have. So during the punt drill, he and Michael Jackson III, Mike Jack, MJ3, they are your punt returners. They basically alternate punt receptions between the jugs machine, and then they'll receive a live kick off the leg of one of the punters. And when they're taking the kick off the live leg, Coach Luke Heward will roll this giant silver, I don't know, looks like a giant dodgeball, I guess, oversized Pilates ball is really what it is. And he rolls it at you, and you have to avoid it so you don't get. It's almost like a defender diving at your legs. And from less than 3 feet away, I'm not sure how Jordan did this, but he jumped, did a split, and he avoided the ball. And Luke had some velocity on this one. He was really putting Jordan under the rigors, testing him out. So, again, Jordan looks great. Mike Jack looks great. And to the left of the punt returners are the kick return group with Coach Kyle McDonald, and he was working with the tandem of Rayleigh Brown and Taj Washington. At one time during the rotation, Coach McDonald pulled Taj aside and kind of took out, we call it the Denny's menu. If you've been around the program long enough, you know what I'm talking about. The play sheet, and he was going over some notes with Taj, and I'm going to assume it was, about setting up a type of return, blocking maybe, who knows, whatever. A lot of coaching going on. So I know the special teams is always, it's always under the microscope, but it's not for a lack of coaching. We see this all the time. So sometimes it's on the players not executing. Um, the coaches do their jobs during the week. On Saturdays, it's up to the players to do the job. And then we could always, look back after the season and say, hey, do we need to address certain coaching issues? You don't do that right now, especially when you're 9-1 and you and you got all this going on in front of you, from conference championship game, UCLA, potential playoffs. Coaching staff is doing just fine. Speaking of coaching staff, Taylor Mays. Everybody who doesn't remember, Taylor Mays played safety for USC. He's on the staff as his role is called student assistant. He's kind of a liaison. I like to refer to him as the student assassin, because he played like that when he played the game. Yeah. If you came across the middle when Taylor Mays was playing, you took your life into your own hands. So today, some of the players were a little slow getting out of the practice field, and Taylor came out to remind everybody that they're late. And when he saw guys still walking and not pick up the pace, he used his angry voice and said, "You're late." And all of a sudden, everybody wasn't walking anymore. So Taylor got the job done. It was also very obvious, at least to me, that this week everybody's taking this week a little bit more serious. Everybody had their rivalry faces on, so to speak. Typically, when the players are coming up, they're a little chirpy, have some comments for the few of us in the media who are out there looking for stuff like this to tell you about. Today, not a whole lot, very silent. I don't know if I mentioned this yesterday, so I'll just drop this in here now. Defensive line coach Sean Nua, he's a semifinalist for the Frank Broyles Award, which goes to the top assistant coach. Obviously, I'm a little biased here. I think he might win it, should win it. One of his guys, Tuiapelotu, he only leads the country with sacks, 11.5. A nice little notch under Coach Nua's belt, right? Oh, and by the way, Tuli was named the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Week for like the 5th time this year, I think, whatever. Appreciate him this year, Trojan fans, because he ain't going to be around after the season. He's heading to the NFL, and he's going to be a high draft pick. So appreciate everything you see. Speaking of the defensive line, watching those guys practice today, so they were getting some sled work in, 3-man sled, and it's like you get 3 pushes on the sled, 3 lunges, 3 aggressive, knock the crap out of the sled type of stuff. And then on that 3rd one, when they finish, it's almost like they're turning over a Jeep. They flip it over. I mean, they in unison. It's a big 1, 2, 3 grunt, shove, owning the offensive lineman in front of you, turning that bad boy over. And then they turn around, flip it back over onto its sliders, I guess, the sled. And so the next group can wash, rinse, and repeat the same routine. I hadn't seen that before. I've seen them work on the sled, but I hadn't seen them finish with the old "let's turn the car over" flourish at the end. So that was kind of cool. Also, linebackers still doing some live tackling on live human beings this late in the season. Tuesdays they go full pads, and they're still doing it, even as dinged up as they've been. It's been working so far. Why not stop? They're not going to stop this late in the season. They're just going to keep plowing through it. And on that note, This, I guess, this is an injury report I could talk about with Brit without giving anything away. Nobody except the quarterbacks and one regular rotational player, only those guys were wearing yellow jerseys today. So, in other words, if you can walk, talk, and block, uh, everybody's out there practicing. It's the final two games of the regular season. No reason to hold anything back. So I point that out. That look, typically, if you're wearing a yellow jersey, that means no contact. Stay away from them. But these guys have to do some. They need as much recovery time as possible between games. Well, like I said, the only guys who wear the yellow jersey regularly throughout the season are the quarterbacks. They're always off limits. So today, those are the only guys wearing it, plus one. And I'm not going to tell you who. Nevertheless, everybody out there knows who you want back playing. Lincoln Riley was asked about Eric Gentry. He thinks he's going to play. I think he's going to play. He's still not 100%. He can still do some stuff, but there's certain things that it's going to continue to be day by day. I would say he's probably around 80, 85%. That's just my unprofessional opinion. Again, it's rivalry week, so one of the first things you'll notice when you're walking around campus is all the Trojan symbols and icons wrapped up tightly, duct tape. So in case any UCLA Bruin fans decide they want to come over and try and desecrate those things, like Tommy Trojan or the Trojan horse in the fountain, or the Trojan sword, John McKay statue, those things are wrapped up tight in duct tape. And in the evenings, the Trojan Knights are guarding those things. So everybody is playing defense at USC this year, or this time of year, I should say. And hopefully the defense shows up Saturday at the Rose Bowl. What else do we see at practice? Jude Wolf, spotted him getting some work in. He's wearing shells, helmet, running routes with the quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends. Lincoln Riley said, after his injury, they were hoping to get him back late. I don't know if he'll be available for this game. Notre Dame would probably be the game. Again, I'm rooting for Jude. Jude's one of my favorite guys on the team. Cool dude. Something to note. So when I was watching the defense going up against the scout offense, USC doesn't have anybody on their roster who can replicate UCLA Bruins running back Zach Charbonnet, his size or skill set. So something to take into consideration when they're trying to tackle that beast, because he's going to play on Sundays. I don't know if he'll be a first-round draft pick, but he's going to play on Sundays. He is a big, strong, very good running back, and would love to have him at USC, but he played at Michigan and decided he preferred to play at UCLA instead. So, hey, you made the choice. Now you got to live with it, and hopefully you're going to live with a loss. Anyways, good luck to you, Zach. However, during that defensive scout team work, I swear, Latrell McCutcheon must have gotten his hands on the UCLA playbook, because he was intercepting everything. Within a 5-play period, he had 3 picks, and one of them was a crazy over-his-shoulder, one-handed, twisting, turning. Odell Beckham Jr. and Jefferson, the guy from the Vikings, they would have stopped and given a golf clap after Latrell's interception. He had 3 that I saw. Tuasivi Nomura had a nice interception. Max Williams had a nice pass breakup over the middle. So, hey, those were good signs. Again, it's scout team, but I love watching those guys getting the job done. So we'll see if that translates over to Saturday at the Rose Bowl. Hopefully, we can bet on it. Again, USC opened up as a 2.5-point favorite. And if you want to go check out those lines and the odds, head on over to BetOnline. There we go. Because betonline.net is your number one source for your betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds, trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football, basketball, soccer, and esports. They've got it all at betonline.net. I'm wondering if they have the World Tag Championships. I was watching ESPN late. They were having a World Championship for tag. Whatever. If you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. They're always kind of the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. So USC moved up to number 7 in the latest college football playoff poll. That came out Tuesday afternoon late. And of course, the SEC bias is strong as can be. Let me go over the top 10 for you. Georgia, number 1. Ohio State, 2. Michigan, number 3. TCU, 4. Tennessee, number 5. LSU, number 6. As I mentioned, USC, number 7. Alabama, number 8. Clemson, 9. Utah, 10. So, we know LSU and Georgia are playing each other in the SEC Conference Championship game. Heaven forbid LSU finds a way to knock off Georgia. It's really going to screw things up here because Georgia's not dropping out. We know Ohio State and Michigan are going to probably be playing each other here. In fact, they are. One of those two teams is going to get dropped out. You got TCU, you got Tennessee. I'm not worried about Alabama or Clemson. Let me lay it out this way for you. The Pac-12 was actually well represented in the top 25 in the CFP. USC 7, Utah 10, Oregon 12, UCLA 16, Washington 17. I might have flipped those two, but that's just me being a Bruin hater talking. And Oregon State was number 23. That's the Pac-12. I want to slide Notre Dame in there at number 18. Why am I sliding Notre Dame in there? Well, look, a lot of people don't know if USC is going to be able to beat UCLA and Notre Dame, as well as the Pac-12 Conference Championship, whether that's Utah, Oregon. If USC wins those games, they're going to finish 12-1, and that means they will have finished the season beating 4 top 25 teams: Oregon State, Notre Dame, UCLA, and the winner between Oregon and Utah, who plays this weekend. Oh, and by the way, USC's only loss was to Utah by 1 point on the road at Utah. Very controversial fashion as well. So the reason why I'm bringing all that up is that whole Tennessee sitting there at number 5. TCU at 4. TCU wins out, they belong in. You're undefeated through a major conference, you belong in. I've gone over the whole Ohio State, Michigan. One of those teams is going to get knocked out more than likely. Tennessee does not belong in there. Should those teams ahead of them fall, ahead of number 1, because they're not playing in their conference championship. They're not going to be able to win their conference championship. And you cannot leave out a USC 12-1 with that type of resume. Period. End of story. So I know a lot of USC fans don't believe USC should even be talking about the playoffs. They're probably a year ahead of schedule, because if they get that number 4 spot in the playoffs, everybody assumes Georgia holds on to that number 1 spot. Do you want to end the season with a major woodshed beating from Georgia? You know what? Anyone, anytime, any place is the motto for USC football. Always has been, always will be. So That's how I feel about it. Always go and win the championship. With that said, Locked On USC will be back for another episode 5 times a week. And when you're not making Locked On USC your first listen, make sure to check out Locked On Sports Today. You can follow it here on this app or YouTube or wherever you like to download your podcast. They're free also. And then when you're done with all that, head on over to wearesc.com. But I'll be back with another episode of Locked On USC tomorrow. Make it your first listen. So until then, this is Rivalry Week 1 halfway through. USC Trojans versus the UCLA Bruins. Until our next episode, guys, you know what to do.